Hello, welcome to Kaiser and Torsion Talk EU4 for Mordred's Community Multiplayer. Kaiser, would you like to say hello?
Hello, and welcome.
So, today we're going to be focusing on the different regions that players are currently inhabiting throughout Europe. We'll start with England, move into the Swedish area, down into Turkey, through Italy, and back into Germany to wrap things up. We're going to talk a little bit about the current political situation between different players in the area, any possible war or intrigue, and future expansion routes that we may see. So, Kaiser, when you look at Scotland, Ireland, and Holland, what's your first reaction?
My first reaction is Scotland is getting a crap ton of England. Because I see Ireland, and then I see Scotland over here just basically looking like they're going to be Great Britain. And it seems like there's going to be conflict boiling over later. Even though they seem really friendly right now, which is surprising.
Yeah, it does seem as though the Irish, Scottish, and Dutch or Holland player have established a pretty good working relationship. During the first session, they brought down England together. Um, Scotland did help Tyrone consolidate Ireland and help them out of a pinch with the Peasant War. But I think you are right. It does seem like Scotland has taken a unfair share of the English Isles.
Yeah, because I see Ireland with two provinces, and then I see Scotland just looking like a machine. I think, okay, they're not a great power yet, but okay, let's compare their economies. Okay, so Scotland, they're making like 1957.
That's
Oh,
pretty healthy for
Tyrone.
this
Wait,
point of the
hold up.
game. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost double the economy.
that's that kind of shows that it's kind of unfair here.
So,
I
the
think
one thing I
trade
will
wise,
point out, if we
hmm?
look at them as three players and include Holland in this area, Holland and Ireland together, economically, do have the ability to bring down Scotland. So, it's
That's true.
not completely unbalanced yet.
Yeah, let me look at Holland. Wait, hold up. They're making 20.
Quite a
They're
bit
making 20
coming
as
in through
well.
trade.
So Scotland and Holland are definitely going to be the economic dukes here, which is kind of leaving Tyrone out diplomatically. Because I mean, they're not providing too much from what I can see to like say a deal. Diplomatically, it just seems like Scotland's going to be aggressive later on, but I'm not sure. They seem pretty friendly, but it seems like it'll boil down to something bad, which I would feel bad for Ireland in that case.
It is interesting to note that all three players have selected exploration ideas, so it's likely that they may work together and one player may leave towards a colonial nation at some point.
That makes sense. Seems like a good. That's actually a really good strategy. That would explain a lot to see why they're even working together. Cause, but then something like Tyrone, they took Cornwall, which would not necessarily be like make sense if they're going to Exodus as a colonial nation.
I agree. It'll be an interesting region to watch and see what Scotland's able to do, especially if they form Great Britain. As we know, the naval dominance can be quite powerful and hard to overcome with the current patch.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure.
Now, we'll rotate over to Sweden, Norway, and Livonian Order, uh, the Northern Brethren, if you will. So, for those of you unaware, Slurfen, Norway, and Holy Victor, Sweden, are both actually Norwegian. So, they got a nationalist bond going. We've seen Norway work quite closely with Sweden to gain independence from Denmark, and continued into the second session with the takedown of Kazan. What are your thoughts on the current state of the three powers in the north, if you will?
Okay, so I see Sweden as freaking huge, and they're kind of scary. Even as say the more southern players, I would say should be fearful just because they're going so deep into Russia. Um, Let me check the Swedish economy. They must be doing pretty well. Yeah, they're doing pretty well. They're doing. I would think that they would be doing more though, just judging by how much landmass they take up.
They are a great power, so they have established themselves. They're about 70, 80 dev ahead of Byzantium, so putting on a show so far. And from what it looks like, Norway, another exploration or colonial power, may also be going New World and giving up that land to Sweden at some point. Norway's actually probably the furthest along out of any player, having both exploration and expansion ideas, and I believe they have the only New World colony as of right now.
Yeah, and I say normally you see Norway do this kind of stuff, just even in a game where AI controls them, just because of how their ideas are set. With the colonial range, free explorers actually and a colonist. So I think we're going to see a strong Norwegian empire colonially.
Yep.
Should be interesting. And I guess Sweden's going to reap quite the rewards from that, just considering that they're working together.
The one thing I find interesting about this region, and I'm interested in your thoughts, Sweden and the Livonian Order have worked together well so far. Livonian Order being played by our Incan player from last season, Charles. Is there going to be any tension? Because it looks like Sweden has cut off Livonian Order's access into some of the Russian expansion route, and it's going to push Livonia south into Byzantium and Moldavia, or west into Germany. Wondering how you see that working.
Honestly, that could be planned. They could have already set up borders beforehand. As honestly, Sweden could have taken over Livonia in the beginning and just annexed them themselves. It seems like this is an olive branch, if you will. And if they've probably agreed on something, because I don't feel like Sweden would make them their march and not be fair to them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Which might be trouble for Brandenburg
Oh, I didn't even know
or
that Livonia was a march.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Definitely something to
So
keep an eye on.
this could be a threat to say Brandenburg or even as far south as Moldavia. Just because if the deal is Livonia gets Lithuania and Poland or something like that, I'm just speculating here, then Brandenburg's probably going to want that Prussian land right there that
Mm-hmm.
Livonia might be getting, and then Moldavia would probably be boxed in.
Very
And
interesting.
again, that is just speculation, so.
And as we shift south towards what was the center of action for Session 2, Moldavia, Georgia, AQ, Byzantium, the Knights, Wallachia. We got a lot of players in a little area. Looks like, as of right now, the way things stand, Byzantium, Moldavia, the Knights are going to come out ahead. We have Wallachia moving over to Gujarat in India. Georgia may soon follow, and AQ as well. But just wondering how you think the balance of power is going to work in this area region moving forward, with Byzantium obviously already on the great power list, the Knights a little bit smaller, Moldavia a little bit smaller. Wondering what your thoughts are there.
Well, obviously, I think it's going to shift westward. AQ looked really strong last game, and I'm actually kind of sad to see them in such a state of being ganged up on this much. Um, there was the Crusade, and I ultimately think it's going to bring out Byzantium on top, perhaps the Knights, just judging how they've been so diplomatic with people, and definitely the Papal State, because we see the Papal State creeping into Crete there, and they're just making a name for themselves. That they got freaking Ireland and Scotland and Holland to come down here. That's good work diplomatically, in my opinion.
So here's a question for you. Byzantium, currently allied with Naples and Papal State, is there enough room for the Knights in Moldavia, Papal State, Naples, Byzantium moving forward, or do you expect additional tension down the line?
I'm not sure. You see, somebody like Papal State or Naples are definitely in a tricky spot here, considering that you could look at it, Naples is trapped between Byzantium and Papal State, or Papal State is possibly just trapped between Naples and one of these other Italian players, which will definitely impact all of the Balkan diplomacy as all the relations are just weird cross sections of alliances and such. And I think it'll weather down, but I just see when and how, who's the aggressor, because I don't know who would be the aggressor. Maybe Naples. I only lean towards that because I don't know them very well, but who knows? I see that there's definitely not enough room if knights want to go into Anatolia for them to be friendly with Byzantium. I don't think. What are your opinions on that?
I would think that the knights would attempt to play to their strengths, which are naval and staying within the Mediterranean. We see that they have Malta, they have Rhodes. I'm surprised to see the Papal States with Crete. I'd expect the knights to want Cyprus and play off that galley combat ability from the national ideas, and then pick and choose their spots where they do land. There looks like they're going naval ideas, which gives them an absolute leg up against any nation that does not take naval with the current way the game plays out. So I think
Yeah.
we may see the
Oh,
knights look to island hop, if you will. Maybe they make a run at Savoy for, I don't know. It's going to be
originally,
tough.
I had heard that his plan was to get all the islands in the Mediterranean, and quite a few people had seen that. But then people like Savoy wanted to form Sardinia and Piedmont. They needed those islands, and then Naples grabbed the islands from Aragon, and then stuff like Ibiza got taken out. And then it's just like, what islands are the Knights gonna get? They're just so I see taking this land as their only means of expansion at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how they move forward with their expansion plans.
Where do you
Hopefully they
see
get islands
them
and stuff. Hmm.
aligning diplomatically? So it does seem like Byzantium, Naples, and the Papal State are forming a relatively strong trio. Do you see the knights working with them fluidly, and or some tension there down the road?
I think the Knights are very fluid, especially with the Papal State and Byzantium, because the whenever I was at war with Georgia AQ, I had Poland on my side, but I really think I wouldn't have gotten any help if the Knights didn't step in and join me to help protect me. Something about that brought in other people, which shows me that the Knights are a strong diplomatic player.
Mm-hmm.
How? I'm not sure, since they're just a small island nation. Maybe it's just the fact that they are the Knights, or maybe they're just really good at working diplomacy.
And now let's take a step towards Italy, another jam packed region full of players. We've got Savoy, we've got Milan, we've got Florence, we've got Naples, we've got the Papal State, we've got Provence. Right now, it appears Milan is the odd player out. Jamie, obviously a strong player from previous games. His Great Britain 2 seasons ago was quite impressive. In the previous session, he fought a good war against Florence, Naples, and Savoy, and was able to snag a province for his vassal Ferrara. Do you see Jamie being able to work himself out of this bind, or is it just an eventuality that he loses out to Savoy, Florence, and others?
Well, he did already beat three players in a war, right?
Correct.
So that's already all the Italian players except for, well, depends if you want to count Provence. I'll say four, not counting Provence, that like would be the whole team together. He's already showed that he is more than capable of beating three. So I think he's probably too strong, but at this point, or he's just such a good player that I think he's going to be able to dominate. Um, Sad to say for some of the other players, I think Milan's is going to do really good this game, and I'm actually kind of happy with that.
It is worth noting
Especially whenever
that
I saw him take out Austria, because he just gone one war after the other. These are hard wars to win. He just cut through them like butter.
yeah, and it is worth noting he did shift to Orthodox, which is a strong religion from a military perspective, as well as a developmental one. So that Italian farmland, um, expect to see Jamie playing quite tall. You can already see there's a tremendous amount of development in the land he does have, each province being 20 or above except for Parma. Wow, that's a fantastic amount of development.
Yeah, and those plutocratic ideas are definitely going to help him with whatever he's doing because that gives him a nice economic base with
Oh,
that idea group
wow,
and
his economy
military.
is humming. 28
That's really
ducats.
nice. For 1488, that's really good.
Yeah,
He
his
does have 5 loans, but to be expected after a war like that.
yeah, he is 7 or 8 ducats above Sweden, Byzantium, and Holland, the next tier of economic powerhouses. Savoy's actually
Yeah.
making some interesting moves into Aragon. Very smart, gives them another expansion path. Wondering if you see conflict or potential partnership with our newly seeded Granada player coming out of Kazan.
I see conflict because I don't know. It just seems as a player, whenever you have a plan, you kind of want to stick to it. And I'm honestly not sure. I'm not sure about how that's going to happen. I feel like there's going to be conflict, but if you're not as good diplomatically, then he can probably work something out. I see conflict. What do you see? Because
So it's tough. Flyerton, the Granada player, one of the more aggressive players, took down Muscovy in a very well planned war as Kazan during the first session. He's diplomatically isolated right now. He's got to be looking for people to work with because you see Provence, you see Naples over in Tunis, you've got Savoy coming towards him, you have Florence who made the jump into Lisboa. He's got to pick a player to work with because Andalusia's a strong tag, and if he forms it, he's going to get a lot of pressure from the Italians, I think, looking towards him and being a little fearful.
yeah, he's going to get a target. Like it's going to be like whenever somebody forms Prussia, everybody wants to take him down.
Yep.
That's basically what's going to happen, and he's going to be right where I'm pretty sure they decided to split up, like to split up this region. Because you see Florence going into Lisboa and you see Savoy going in the east. Seems like they already had some kind of borders planned, and then boom, you got this Granada player in there. That's going to cause some heavy interference and definitely some conflict later down the line. Now that I look at it,
So it's actually interesting you mentioned the Florence player in Lisboa. Is that a way for Florence to expand out of Italy and look to establish himself in Iberia? Or do we think he's making a jump towards a colonial Florence?
he probably might be doing colonial, but even so, if he was just going colonial and he wasn't thinking about like further expansion, I feel like he wouldn't have picked this 18 dev province with a trade center in it.
Yep, that is a good point. And it is worth noting that the Sevilla trade node can be pushed right into Genoa, where Florence has 32% of the trade power right now.
Yeah, so he could just be trying to consolidate trade power here.
Looks like Genoa may be a prime target to get global trade this game. We'll see what happens with the new world income. Right now, obviously, the channel is dominating, but Genoa is not looking too shabby. Still
That is
quite a
true.
bit
That
of
is
trade
true.
in Alexandria that can be pulled out. So,
And with this many players, you're going to have all kinds of trade pouring in from everywhere.
yep. So we'll rotate back to the north here for our final little area. Brunswick, Brandenburg, Bavaria, the triple Bs, the German three. Slow start for Brandenburg. Brunswick obviously didn't have a player the first session. Starting to solidify, consolidate a little bit. Brunswick was able to get the Imperial Crown at the end of last session. Bavaria's grown quite nicely, having not only themselves but also Baden as a vassal underneath them and carving up Bohemia right now. One thing I will say, more so than any other area, expansion options are limited for the German three. You've
Most
got
definitely.
players all around them. Do you think they have a shot?
I think they have a shot if they band together. They keep the HRE alive, so Brunswick can keep their manpower and those other modifiers. And then if they just band together and they don't go into conflicts with each other, I think they can prevail. But say Bavaria goes into conflict with just any of them, go to conflict with the other, you're going to leave the other battered, and then you're going to have to rebuild after a war. And somebody like Milan's going to be like, hey, that's some nice destroyed players up there. Wouldn't mind if I go in. Or maybe somebody like Sweden might do that too. Just because y'all would be penciled, and somebody like Milan or Sweden would be looking for expansion routes at all times.
Yep.
But I think there's definitely a chance as long as you guys just stick together. I do like the 3Bs thing. Hadn't thought of that.
Well, we'll see what tags we end up with at once we hit Admin Tech 10, but 3Bs or the German 3. So, as we look forward to this Sunday session, what player wars are you expecting to see that are not carried over from the prior session?
I'm honestly not sure. What do you expect to see? Because
I expect Milan to be involved in another conflict. It would surprise me if they
that
are
makes
not.
sense.
And then I can see some tension with Granada over in Iberia.
That makes sense too. Yeah, the Granada thing. There's definitely going to be tension. It's just about when. And depending on whatever the Italians strike, that's going to decide who wins. I think if the Italians wait it out, they can. Well, if they wait, then Granada's going to be too strong by that point because I think he's going to have established himself. But the sooner they attack him, the sooner it's like going to be attacking an AI essentially because it was run by an AI.
Yep.
So I think we're probably going to, if we're going to see a Granada conflict, it'll probably be within this next game.
One interesting thing to note, Granada currently allied with Morocco. AI Morocco, relatively strong at 234 dev, decent economy, 28 ducats a month, and a decent army as well, 32 force limit. So I know some players still have some strong AI alliances, obviously Provence and France, Holland and Burgundy, Byzantium and Hungary, but don't count Morocco out when you're going to war with Granada.
Yeah, because Morocco's definitely going to be. Let's see, how's Morocco's navy? They have a decent navy too, don't they?
Yep, 7 heavies.
Yeah, those 7 heavies are going to be tough. So if you're going to go towards Granada, you're going to have to cross over to Morocco most likely.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting.
Speaking of the last few AI powerhouses, we've got France, we've got Hungary and Poland, and then Burgundy as well, I guess. Do you see any of those falling this coming session? Will Byzantium decide I need the expansion route? Is Moldavia or Brandenburg going to finally go into Poland? Are Savoy, Provence, Scotland maybe going to finally carve up France? What do you think?
I was going to say that France is going to be carved up, like, say, last session or the session before, or maybe even this session. But with the absence of Brittany, it seems like there's going to be less of a push to take out France. Because right now I see Savoy would like France, possibly Holland would like some of that, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be enough players pushing into wanting to push into France. Oh, and I forgot about Provence, but I don't know. There just might not be enough player push towards it in order to want to take down this powerhouse because France is huge, and they're never to be underestimated. And you're going to need a lot of players to want to do that.
They are huge. They do not have a lawn yet. They are a little bit behind on admin tech, having selected economic ideas, but 60 plus thousand manpower, 37 ducats a month. You got to get a few players together if you want to take them down.
Yeah, plus they got all that extra dev in Iberia.
Yeah, that was impressive to see them just tear Castile apart.
Oh yeah, and you listed all the powerhouses. I didn't hear you list Ulm.
Ulm, the one province minor that Bavaria will be eating quite soon.
I mean, if he eats it, there will be some angry guys in the east. Just saying.
Well, Kaiser, appreciate the time. Any final thoughts for today's session?
No other thoughts. No, just looking at Moldavia. I keep looking at them with less and less hope. every time I look at this save. But other than that, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so for those of you who aren't listening and may not have seen Dat Guy's review, Moldavia put on an absolute clinic in Death Wars previous session. it was Georgia, Wallachia, AQ versus PLC and Moldavia. Byzantium got involved at one point. The Knights got involved, but for the large portion of the war, it was Moldavia versus Georgia and AQ. Moldavia sitting at -1 stab, 13 corruption, max loans, and 0 manpower, but hanging in there. By God, you hung in there, and it was exactly how you fight a death war. You take out every option available, and
Yeah, I remember I was sitting there with 4% army professionals, and I was like, how do I get this? And I was like, oh yeah, a general. And then that little bit of manpower really helped. It's amazing what the little things do to help you once you get into a dire situation. But
so question for you: are you going to continue as Moldavia, or are you looking at options?
I will continue just because even though George is dropping out, and that will definitely make my life harder, I still want to stick it out because I think I fought and won the war,
So
and
Georgia has
I don't
not
want to
announced a
fight and
switch
win
yet, just to let you know.
and quit. Wait, what did you say?
Georgia
Sorry.
has not announced a switch as of yet.
Oh, he has not.
No.
Hmm. Okay, because I was talking to him and it seemed like that, but if he has not announced one yet, then I don't know. Hope if he does, then the diplomatic if he stays, the diplomatic situation in the Balkans will definitely look um it'll definitely look more fun in my opinion.
Any tag switches in mind for Moldavia? There's quite a few nice tags in your area.
There's Ruthenia. Um, I
Romania
thought about
is going to be open again as well, right?
no, because you have to kill Byzantium. Byzantium's been like I'm not gonna go after Byzantium.
Okay, I'm just putting
One,
it out
look at
there.
him. Two, he he's kind of helping me out here, and that's really nice. So
Ruthenia is a very
yeah,
powerful and popular tag as well.
yeah. I was thinking about Russia, but I know Sweden's not going to allow me taking Novgorod, especially now that he's gone so deep in. Uh, Golden Horde is an option
Interesting.
if I figure out how to go Horde. I guess like I have to tag switch like over to Great Horde or something. But there's a lot of interesting tags in the region. I'll probably do a tag switch later on down the line. Who knows? But yeah, I actually do hope that Georgia stays as Georgia. I look I look forward to next session.
Yeah,
And
so
this
do
has
I.
been a nice little review.
Yep, and thanks folks for listening, and tune in next week to see what happened in session 3.